Joseph, the dreamer. The final chapters of Genesis are devoted to the life of Joseph. One key unlocks the door to his character. It is found in Genesis chapter 37, verse 19. The brothers said to him, "Look, this dreamer is coming." They didn't mean it as a compliment in the slightest, but God has a way of turning what is intended to be a complaint into a compliment. Let's just crack the door of the life of Joseph and follow the flow of the account. 1. Joseph's family. Now Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. This is the history of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. Also, he made him a tunic of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Joseph is a 17-year-old boy when the story begins. When you look at Joseph's family, you'll notice that it was probably a lot like yours, with its good points and bad points. You will discover, as you read the life of this young man Joseph, that his difficulties and problems drove him to God. Joseph was the son of a devoted father and the brother of 10 envious brothers. Joseph's brothers probably did everything they could to force him to conform to their worldview, but Joseph was a young man with strong beliefs. This father, Jacob, made a critical error. He elevated this 17-year-old boy above the other brothers, who despised Joseph as a result of their father's favoritism. Hatred is a lethal emotion. According to Jesus, anger in the heart is the precursor to murder in the life. When hatred goes unchecked, it can cause major problems and sins. Allow no hostility to grow in your heart or in your life. So, let's take a look at what happened to Joseph. 2. Joseph's future. Genesis chapter 37, verse 5 to 11, New King James Version. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And indeed your sheaves stood all around, and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed still another dream, and told it to his brothers, and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me." So he told it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him, and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?" And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Joseph was dubbed the dreamer by his brothers because he was, in fact, a dreamer. Genesis chapter 37, verse 5 says, Joseph had a dream. God had a plan for Joseph, just like God has a plan for you. God had a future for Joseph, just like God has a future for you. So, Joseph began to dream dreams. Even though he was only a young boy, God had a plan for him. God has a plan for your life. God has a will for your life. Make up your mind while you are young that you will do God's will. Finding and following God's will for your life is the greatest adventure of your life. Joseph's dreams are quite intriguing. The first dream involved sheaves and had something to do with the earth's resources. Everything bowed to Joseph in some way. The second dream foreshadowed a position above his entire family. God was at work in his life. Joseph had dreams, which his brothers despised. You'll meet people like Joseph's brothers along the way. They have no intention of making anything of their lives, and they don't want you to make anything of yours either. But I'd like to challenge you to dream for the Lord. God has a plan for your life, and you are a part of it. 3. Joseph's fate. We believe that if we commit to doing God's will, everything will go smoothly from then on. That is not how life works. Your special dreams may appear to be shattered on the rock of circumstances at times. Genesis chapter 37, verse 12 to 36, New King James Version. Then his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." So he said to him, "Here I am." Then he said to him, "Please go and see if it is well with your brothers, and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me." So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. Now a certain man found him, and there he was, wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, "What are you seeking?" So he said, "I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks." And the man said, "They have departed from here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. Now when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Then they said to one another, "Look, this dreamer is coming. Come, therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, 'Some wild beast has devoured him.' We shall see what will become of his dreams." But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, "Let us not kill him." And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands, and bring him back to his father." So it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, and they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it, and they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not let our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh." And his brothers listened. Then Midianite traders passed by. So the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. Then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit. And he tore his clothes, and he returned to his brothers, and said, "The lad is no more, and I, where shall I go?" So they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, "We have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's tunic or not?" And he recognized it, and said, "It is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted, and he said, "For I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning." Thus his father wept for him. Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. Let's follow the account. Joseph was sent to find his brothers, and he got lost. He was lost in the field. We also lose our way, our purpose, and our focus from time to time. Someone needs to find us. A certain man found him, the Bible says. God sent someone to inform him of the location of his brothers. Meanwhile, that old seed of jealousy has grown into a full-grown legion of murder. The brothers' hearts were so cold that they plotted murder. They threw their own brother into a pit and sat down to eat casually. You've heard the story. When some traders arrived, the brothers sold Joseph into slavery. Each brother put 2 silver coins in his own pocket. But these men inherited a guilty conscience that would follow them for the rest of their lives. They had their old dad back home. They had to concoct a story. Jacob tore his clothes in agony when he saw Joseph's bloody tunic. He dressed in sackcloth and wept. His sons were doing to him what Jacob had done to his father. The crops were arriving. The chickens were returning to roost. Your family may follow the patterns you establish. As a result, it appeared that Joseph the dreamer would have unfulfilled dreams. Do you have some shattered dreams in your hands? Let me encourage you that even if you believe everything is wrong with you, God in heaven loves you and has a plan for you. And He can work even in the most difficult circumstances of your life, so that even if everything appears to be going wrong, God can make it all right. Joseph went from privileged son to the pit of slavery to the palaces of Egypt, and it all started with a dream. Effective leaders have dreams, inspiring pictures of the future that energize and empower. The period between a dream's birth and realization is always a process. During this process, you will experience good and bad days. Frequently, you will be faced with a dilemma. Do you give up or go on? Joseph's example encourages you not to give up on your dreams. All of Joseph's experiences, from being a well-off kid to becoming a slave in Egypt, can be traced back to a dream that he had. Great leaders have dreams, inspiring visions of the future that motivate and empower their teams and organizations. Whenever a dream is born, it goes through a process until it is realized. You will have both good and terrible days as you progress through the process. You will be confronted with a tough choice on a regular basis. Should you quit or keep going? Your inspiration can be found in Joseph's example of never giving up on your ambitions. When Joseph was 17 years old, he began to have dreams. The Lord revealed to him that his brothers and father will bow down to him in visions he got from God. Sadly, Joseph shared them with his family in an insensitive and dumb manner. Consequently, he found himself in hot water. He held on to the dream, even after his brothers sold him into slavery, and he was sold back into servitude. It is common for dreamers to be more enthusiastic than wise at the beginning of their journey. It's possible that you'll say or do things that you shouldn't say or shouldn't do. Your day may not start out well, just like it did with Joseph. Joseph, on the other hand, went on to set a precedent for faith and perseverance that endured. In the early stages of our dreams, when they are most vulnerable, we all too often give up on them. What dreams has God given you to fulfill as part of your mission on the planet? You shouldn't give up on them, even if things didn't go as planned in the beginning. Consider how Joseph's example can inspire you to return to your unfulfilled desire and reclaim it as your own in the future.